We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully your day is going well. It is Thursday as you're listening to this. I'm recording it Wednesday night. It's just me tonight. We're going to delve into some of the text messages that I've gotten. In fact, all the text messages I've gotten. And we'll continue to offer that as an opportunity for folks to ask questions and make comments through the text messaging. But before we get to the text messages, I want to talk about some of the things that happened yesterday. And one was the confirmation hearing for Mark Wayne Mullen. You know that Kristi Noem got fired. Mark Wayne Mullen is Donald Trump's choice to fill the spot as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Mark's got some problems. First of all, Mark's not too bright. Second of all, Mark's got an anger problem, as Rand Paul pointed out in the hearing yesterday. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Rand Paul, of course, is a Republican, but Rand Paul gave Mark Wayne Mullen all kinds of trouble. Apparently, they've got bad blood between them. Mark Wayne Mullen said some bad things about Rand Paul, and Rand Paul said some bad things about Mark Wayne Mullen, and it didn't get much better during this hearing. Now, Donald Trump wants him to be the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. He's not a bright guy. He's a senator from Oklahoma. He has some issues. He thinks he's a tough guy. You would think he's this big, strong, powerful guy because he said he fought MMA. Well, first of all, he's 5'8", 165, so he's not a big, tough guy. In terms of his MMA or UFC or whatever the fuck you call it, his experience, he's had a grand total of 3 fights. The first 2 fights were with the same guy, and then the third fight was a different guy. So he's had 3 fights, which he all won. I don't know who these guys were, though, nobody of note, and he's only had 2 opponents, and then after that he quit. I mean, if he was such a talented MMA fighter, why would he quit after 3 fights? Because somebody handed him the Senate job? I don't know. No, this was quite a while ago. Mark Wayne Mullen did this, I think, in the early 2000 teens. Nonetheless, he wants to be the Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, and that's what I don't understand. Why would he want to do that? He's got a pretty safe seat as a senator, a sitting senator. That's a pretty good job. And he's going to set that aside so he can become the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. We know how tentative that job is, or how fragile that situation is with Kristi Noem within a year getting fired because things didn't go right. And let's be honest, when Kristi Noem got fired, she got fired for nothing. Well, she got fired for any number of things, but the reason they gave her for firing her, she probably shouldn't have got fired for, because she didn't lie to Congress, although they said she did. They were talking to Kristi Noem about this advertising campaign she created, focusing on her, riding horses and all that stuff. They spent $220 million on this. And John Kennedy from Congress, a Republican, said, "Did Donald Trump know about this expenditure?" And she said yes. And then, of course, there was a lot of blowback. Donald Trump didn't like being embarrassed, so he threw her under the bus and fired her. But afterwards, Kristi Noem came out and said, well, Donald Trump did say that it was okay. In fact, he encouraged me to do it. He encouraged me to do some other campaigns as well. And that doesn't sound that surprising when you think about Donald Trump. He's very optically oriented. He likes things looking sharp and good. He's big on the media. So it wouldn't surprise me that he gave her the okay, but he wasn't willing to admit he gave her the okay because all of the negative blowback. So anyway, he fires her. And that's what I'm saying about Mark Wayne Mullen. If you have a job that's so tentative that you can't even tell the truth if it's going to embarrass Donald Trump, and you'll be out on your ass. You've got a safe seat as a senator, and now you're going to go take this job. That, to me, is an illustration of fucking stupidity, but I'm not surprised with Mark Wayne Mullen. Now, when Rand Paul came out, he was a little disgusted with Mark Wayne Mullen. And he said to him, he says, listen, you've called me a freaking snake, and you said you understood why my neighbor jumped me from behind and beat me up. He said, you understand that. And Mark Wayne Mullen sat there, really not knowing what to say. And Rand Paul says, you never apologized for that. You never said anything about it. And he said, well, I never apologized because you and I don't see eye to eye on these things. Mark Wayne Mullen would not apologize in this situation. And as he went through this confirmation hearing, he got beat up pretty bad. I mean, a lot of people are suggesting they've never seen a confirmation hearing go this bad. Now, does that mean he's not going to get confirmed? Well, when you're talking about the Republican Party, who the fuck knows? I know Rand Paul's not voting for him. I know no Democrat is voting for him. It's just a matter of how many Republicans. And remember, Republicans only have so many votes to lose in the House of Representatives. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. But if Mark Wayne Mullen was going to go there and try to redeem himself or try to make himself look good to get this job, it wasn't successful. He didn't do a good job with it. It's not working. We'll have to wait and see what Congress does, what the House does, if they elect him or confirm him, and we'll see. A lot of people were happy about Kristi Noem getting fired, and I was too. She deserved to be fired for that reason and any number of other reasons, crimes against humanity for that matter. But what you have to understand, as long as Donald Trump is choosing who's going to replace Kristi Noem, we're not going to be any better off. They might be a little more cautious when they get in there because Kristi Noem got caught, but it's still going to be the same kind of goofball. And with somebody like Mark Wayne Mullen, this guy thinks he's some kind of crazed tough guy. Now, one of the things they talked to him about was a bunch of traveling he did overseas. And he said he couldn't talk about it because it was top secret. Well, since when is top secret a big deal in the Republican Party? We're spewing top secret stuff all over the place. Just ask Hegseth. But there's some question on what was going on there. And he also suggested that he was in some kind of training a la SEAL team training, which wasn't the case. And again, he was asked about that, and he couldn't answer. We'll see what happens here. We'll see if he gets confirmed. I wouldn't be surprised if he is. And if he is, I wouldn't expect things to get any better than they were with Kristi Noem. Then Tulsi Gabbard was in front of Congress, and she was being asked some tough questions. And you know what? There was a time when Tulsi Gabbard was kind of a younger, attractive woman, but she's looking like she's been rode hard and put away wet. The pressure's getting to her, I think. She was asked one question that she refused to answer, and it should have been the easiest question in the world to answer. Tulsi Gabbard, several months ago, had said that Iran did not have anything close to nuclear weapons. We shouldn't worry about it. They don't have anything close to nuclear weapons. And then Donald Trump uses that as an excuse to attack Iran. So somebody asked her very clearly, did they have weapons, nuclear weapons, ready to go? Or is it what you said before, they didn't have nuclear weapons? And she spun around and tap danced and did all kinds of shit, and she never answered the question. She refused to answer the question. I mean, she knew what the answer was, that they didn't, but she was terrified of the prospect of contradicting Donald Trump, because we know that what that'll get her. She'll get her ass fired, whether she's right or not. If she's contradicting or embarrassing Donald Trump, she's got all kinds of problems. So she sits there in front of Congress, asked a very specific question, and acts as if it's not her call. The president makes that decision, as far as what's going on in these foreign countries. Now, as the head of the DNI, she is the exact one to make these determinations, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump has her in that position to keep an eye on all these foreign countries. But apparently she ceded that power to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump just makes decisions based on nothing because he doesn't know what's going on. And if he doesn't like the information his people give him, he said, fuck it, we'll just do it anyway. We know that with the bombing of Iran. His generals told him not to do it, yet he still did it. And one other hearing that was going on, and this was kind of impromptu, I think. It was a little impromptu. Pam Bondi showed up in a briefing behind closed doors. Now, you know she got a subpoena, and she's supposed to come in and testify behind closed doors about the Epstein files. She has not committed as to whether or not she's going to show up for this thing. And I think she was going to this briefing to talk to them ahead of time to see if she can work out some kind of angle or some kind of deal. She was sitting behind closed doors talking to them and saying, we really don't have to do the subpoena thing because I'm here talking to you now. But there's one very big difference that the Democrats are insisting on, and that is that she's under oath. In that briefing, she was not under oath. She's trying very hard to get out of this. And she was asked a number of times, will you show up to this hearing that you've been subpoenaed for? Would not give a straight answer. That seems to be a common trend with Trump cabinet members. No straight answers. Either they can't or they refuse to answer it. So some Democrats got so angry about this that she was fucking playing this game that they just walked out of the meeting. I don't know if Pam Bondi will show up. I don't know if she'll have a choice, really. James Comer, the one that issued the subpoena, and he's a Republican. If she does not show up, to me, that shows more guilt. So she's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Show up and don't answer questions and look stupid, or don't show up and look stupid and guilty. It's hard to say what she will do in that situation because she's done all of them before. She's looked stupid, she's refused to answer, or not shown up. So it was a little busy on Capitol Hill today with just meetings. There were plenty of meetings going on, and of course, the war with Iran is continuing. Donald Trump is imploring all these other countries to help him out, which is weird because he's already said he's won and that Iran is looking to agree to a ceasefire and they're going to negotiate. Although Iran did send some demands to get the ceasefire, and they're not going to get these demands. First thing is America to pull out of all the countries in and around Iran, pay reparations and all kinds of stuff. There's no way Donald Trump or the United States is going to do that. But I think that Iran is just fucking with Trump here. But all these people, all these other countries that he claims should be willing to help us out in this situation, every one of them has turned us down. And it's not surprising when you think about the fact that this is a quagmire potentially. This is a shit show. This is not a war for all these other countries who live so closely to Iran. They don't want to get in this fucking mess. There's concerns of keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed, and as we know, there's about 20% of the oil in this world that goes through there. So if you block that off, there's all kinds of problems with gas prices. You just have to go to the gas pumps now and see that they're going through the roof. Donald Trump will tell you everything's great and gas prices are coming down, but the fact of the matter is, it is not. We just have to. I went to the gas station today. I paid like $3.69, and at one point I was paying $2.75. We're almost up $1 here, and God knows what's happening out in California and other parts of the country. These other countries don't want to help Donald Trump, so he's caught in a very tough situation. And this isn't surprising. Donald Trump doesn't think before he does things. He just jumps into it and thinks it's going to turn out because he's a motherfucking genius, but he's not. So now he's painted himself in a corner. Nobody's willing to help him out, which is interesting. Everything Donald Trump has ever done, ever attempted, he's failed. And every time he's failed, there's always been somebody there to bail him out. Not this time around. Iran is even suggesting that if you don't stop fucking around, that they're going to align with their partners anyway, China and Russia. Oh, that would be great. China and Russia getting involved in this thing. Then we're really talking about a World War III. I don't know how this all shakes out. Somebody's going to have to grab Donald Trump by the fucking collar and say, you dumb orange motherfucker, we need to fix this, or there's going to be immense damage in this world. All right. I'm going to read some of the texts people are thinking about. Now, this first one, this is a guy we heard from a lot, Garage Door Jeff. He was writing all the time. Then we had the election, and he was kind of bummed out about it, so we didn't hear from him for a while. But Garage Door Jeff is back, and it's always interesting to hear his text. So as you're looking at me here right now, and if I look away, it's because I'm reading the motherfucking thing. Don't give me shit about this. I'm not a TV guy or a video guy by nature. I'm a radio guy, so just hang with me here. All right, it says, something that occurs to me that I haven't heard anyone mention yet is that the administration is actually fighting two wars in Iran. Trump has his orange dick war where he's playing like he's some kind of global mob boss in diapers. Then there's Hegseth's holy war. For Christ's sake, the guy has a fucking Knights of the Templar cross tattooed across his chest. Unless he's a huge Assassin's Creed video gamer, then he's fucking delusional. My question is, who is he really taking orders from? Trump's a fucking shallow moron. Is Pete conducting the insane war on his own, or is someone in that group controlling him? As a veteran, I'm beyond pissed at the ridiculous bullshit, and I would suggest maybe Jared Kushner or the other fucking clown. Why can't I say his name? The creepy fucker that's in the White House. Anyway, he goes on to say, boom, there's two cohorts I'd love to slap the fuck out of. One, the megalofucks, of course. These hapless motherfuckers have no core beliefs, no law and order, no fiscal responsibility. They don't even know if they're against pedophilia at this point, for fuck's sake. Two, remember those genocide Joe fucks, many of whom sat out the election? They would explain with some degree of intellectual condescension how they figured out that from a higher perspective, both parties are the same. Yeah, motherfucker, but Mars, it probably all does look the same, but I'm here on Earth. What say you, Southside, and me create a slap the fuck out of commission? I like that. Let's add Matt the Welder and Jace for youth in case we all have strokes or heart attacks as our nostalgia and testosterone outpaces our arteries. Probably a good plan. What a despicable development, Garage Door Jeff. Now, this next one comes from Scott in Indiana and sent me a TikTok, and I looked at it, and it's been a while since I looked at it. I will tell you this. If you're going to text me messages, just text me the message. Don't send me videos. Just refer to the video. I watch TikTok and YouTube all day, so I've seen most of these videos. And when I'm sitting here now and you give me the link, I could pull it up, and now I got to watch it. Now I got to recall what it's about. And then try to do the show. And I'm too lazy to put in the pre-work. So just send me the comments, refer to the video, and I probably have seen it already. It says, Mike, I was wondering what you think they are talking about in this video. Do you think Epstein was meeting with Jared and that Epstein was controlling a lot of what was happening in politics due to all his blackmail with politicians and world leaders? I'm feeling like the times we are in, there's a damn good chance all of this is true. The country is run by a lot of pedophiles, and ultra-rich have been blackmailed to hell and back for their evil and sick shit they're doing behind closed doors. Thanks, Scott from Indiana. Do I think Elon Musk, or I'm sorry, do I think that Jeffrey Epstein had some impact on Donald Trump in some of his choices? Absolutely. I mean, you can see it in the emails that they're making plans and ways to manipulate Donald Trump. Elon Musk, of course, because he has a lot of money. He was kind of influencing what was going on. Donald Trump is a dumb fuck. Donald Trump likes to make it appear as though these are all his decisions, these are all his ideas, but none of them are. He likes to take other people, smarter people's ideas, and then co-opt them and act like they're his. Do I think Jeffrey Epstein had some impact? I think he did. I think that was his intention. I think he thought he hit the lottery when Donald Trump became president of the United States the first time around. And yeah, I do think he had some impact there. And I think we'll find out about that at some point. Next one comes from Hodiner. Mike, I agree with you that Trump is not firing folks from his cabinet because he has limited options. Like no one wants the job given what it will do to their careers. I think he keeps the current ones around due to their unwavering loyalty. There is acknowledgement that the person is not able to fulfill their duties. Lastly, there is the political capital that would be expended to get a new person confirmed. So ride or die for the unfortunate folks that serve him. Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. Some people say he went off the rails and he got all these crazy, goofy fucks in the cabinet because now he's going to tear everything down. He's obviously trying to tear things down, but I don't think he got these goofy, unqualified, incompetent members of the cabinet because that was his choice. I think after his first term, when he got some relatively reasonable people in there, and everybody saw how they ended up and how it went, nobody of any substance wanted those fucking jobs. So he had to pick and choose from the B team, or the D team, if you will. And that's why he has what he has. And secondly, that's why he's not firing them, because he really doesn't have anybody to replace them with. Unless you come across a dumb motherfucker like Wayne Mullen. Sure, I'll give up my Senate seat and take this job that's going to last maybe a year until I get fired, and then I have no job. That's fucking brilliant, Wayne Mullen. Yeah, I agree. I think we have what we have in the cabinet because anybody of any substance already realized who Donald Trump was and where this is going to go if they take the job, so they didn't want it. I can guarantee you there's a lot of people that might have done a better job that refused to take it. They just liked the idea that Donald Trump had this power, and they thought they would flourish and make money and get a pardon or whatever the fuck they're getting. But it's not turning out that way. Just ask Kristi Noem. All right, Hodiner had another one. Mike, as I contemplated representatives over 60, I come to the conclusion that Generation X let the world pass it by. All fix the wall came down. Our country did not progress as a result. Now Generation Y and whatnot are going to take over. I wonder how Generation X will respond. I'm Generation X. When I retire, do I get into politics? Maybe just volunteer? There'll be lots to fix after this administration is gone. Hodiner. You know, people have asked me about that. Why don't you get involved in politics? Because I'm that one thing that I think should get out of politics, an old white guy. Secondly, I don't listen to shit. I don't like meetings, and I speak my mind too much. I would not last long in a political position. So instead, I stay on the outside, be able to say whatever the fuck I want, try to gain an audience, and have an impact that way. For me, that's a better option. All right, the next one says, I read somewhere that Iran is trying to break us money-wise. Everything they're throwing at Israel, us, and neighboring countries are old and cheap. They've been stockpiling. They're going to wait us out and break us money-wise, so we bail out and give up. Jerry in Savannah. Well, there may be some truth to that. I don't know if it's about money. I mean, we have more money than anybody, but in available resources, they may try to be running that out, playing possum a little bit, running the cheap drones in there that are $20,000 a piece, and we have to stop them with missiles that cost $3 million, and we have limited supplies. The idea that they're trying to take up all our expensive stuff and then they hit us with the big stuff, I think without question, that's what's happening. They have the hypersonic missiles with 1-ton warheads. Yeah, I think that's exactly the plan, and it's a good plan. And Donald Trump is too stupid to fucking understand that. That's why it'll probably work. All right, the next one says, Hi, Mike. Apologies for the long text, but I want to explain the California gubernatorial race. In California, the top two candidates that win the primary go on to the general election, even if the top two are from the same party. So we could have two Republicans to choose from or two Democrats to choose from in the general election. Currently, there are two Republicans polling in the top three for the primary. There is a real concern that they will be faced with two Republicans from the general election because there are 9 Democrats running, which could split the vote so much that the Republicans could take the top 2 spots. SoCal Bev. Well, that's a definite concern. That could definitely happen. You know, we saw that kind of with the Republican Party in Texas. You had a lot of people in there that were running, and we got the top 2, Paxton and Cornyn, and they both got about 30%. So we got all these other people sucking up the votes. Now, it depends on in the general election where those other Republican or Democratic votes come from. Bev, that's a big concern. I would find it hard to believe that you would get only 2 Republicans running for governor in California. That doesn't make much sense. I haven't seen the polling, but just based on how blue California is, I would have to believe there would be Democrats in the top 2, or at the very least a Democrat and a Republican. But I understand what you're saying. It is a real concern, and we had that problem with other states around the country as well. But how does a Republican win? All you have to do is look at the economy. I mean, did you hear that the inflation rate for wholesale inflation rate, did you hear what that was in February? 3.4%. That's a huge jump. And we're talking about wholesale inflation, but that wholesale inflation trickles down to retail inflation as well. This means more money, more higher cost for everything. And all you have to do is go in the grocery store. I go in the grocery store and I'm noticing the higher prices. It's getting a little crazy. See it at the gas pumps. I'm paying anywhere from 80 cents to $1 more than I was, even last month. So it's impacting a lot of people. And make no mistake, they're noticing and they're not happy about it. Mike, from what I gathered from your show with Jace today, which was great, by the way, thank you. Are you saying that if Dem turnout is not good, then Dump's meddling in the midterms will have an impact? I tend to agree with you on that. Thanks for all you do. Yeah, kind of, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is kind of the opposite. If the race is close, whatever meddling Donald Trump or Russia or whoever's doing it has a better chance of succeeding in it. If we have a big turnout, it would be tough, if not impossible, to meddle enough to switch the elections. I'll give you an example. We know what happened in 2024. The race was very close, and Kamala lost. We know there was meddling involved. We know there was cheating involved. But it was close, and Donald Trump won. But in 2020, Donald Trump went up against Joe Biden. That was a much different situation. Donald Trump got about 74 million votes, and Joe Biden got 81 million votes, the largest number of votes for a president in the history of this country. That was a $7 million differential. So even though they meddled in 2020, they couldn't really do anything because of the big difference in the votes. Enough Democrats came out, and even the meddling couldn't stop it. They were overwhelmed by Democratic votes. Now, in the 2024 election, we had anywhere from 7 to 10 million people sit on their asses on the Democratic side and not come out. So now it's close. And these meddling tactics are more effective. So it's important that we get Democrats coming out and participating and voting. If you stay home and sit on your ass, you will be held responsible for the demise of democracy and this country. I'm just fucking saying. All right, the next one says, hey, Mike, how is an insurrection, a fake assassination, starting potentially world war, and a host of other crimes not enough to inform the last few podcasters that Trump ain't leaving by any standard means, particularly elections? He will fuck with the elections if we get there in some way or another. Again, he ain't leaving unless by way of a Wendy's triple stack induced coronary. Does MT have anything to do with the messaging about elections, such as keep selling the hopium? MT, who's he talking about with MT? Didn't leave a name on this one. First of all, you suggested if we have elections. We're going to have midterm elections. There's a lot of people freaking out about this shit, but it's going to happen. Elections are handled by the state, not by the federal government. They don't have the power to shut them down. May try to encourage the Republican states, the red states, to do it, but go ahead. If we want to cancel out a bunch of red votes, I'm all for that. Fuck it. So if you're worried about whether the midterms are going to happen, they're going to happen. All you have to do to win this fucking thing, get off your ass and vote, no matter what it takes to vote. Now, a lot of people are talking about this SAVE Act, and they're all worried about it. You know, it's kind of interesting. We're hearing a lot of noise about the Senate, about this SAVE Act. They're pushing and they're pushing and they're pushing, trying to get this SAVE Act across the line. But there are other people out there saying it's dead in the water. It isn't going to happen. And the fact of the matter is, those people are right. It's dead in the water, and I'll explain to you why. But the reason they're still pushing this and debating it and talking about taking a vote and all this stuff, all these Republican senators, including Thune, know it's a non-starter. Know it's going to fail. The only reason they are doing this is because Donald Trump told them, just do it. It'll work. Just do it. And they're bending to his will and doing whatever he says, even though they know that it's going to fail. This is Donald Trump's influence. So how do I feel so confident it's going to fail? Well, the fact of the matter is, in order for this to pass in the Senate, it has to deal with a filibuster, which means there has to be 60 votes that vote for it. Now, keep in mind, there's only 52, 53 Republican senators in the Senate right now. So now you need 7 to 8 Democrats to vote for it. And that ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen. There are even some Republicans that won't vote for it, so they may need more Democrats in order to win this. It's just not going to happen. And people worrying about it, it's all for naught. It doesn't matter. It's not going to pass. They're going to keep trying to push this just to keep Donald Trump happy. Donald Trump thinks it can pass if we just work hard enough. But Donald Trump doesn't understand how the fucking government works. So he thinks they should go in there and bully their way through and pull this out for him. But it's not going to happen. All right, the next one says, now we know why the Arab countries have been giving Trumpel foreskin all the loot paid to them to do the dirty work. U.S. Army for sale as mercenaries and the Epstein class share in the spoils. They have something the wealthy want bad. That's Chris in Ohio. And then he added on, Trump is doing all of this shit because he feels that if he is going down, the America goes with him. Congress needs to act now, CNO. I don't know if I agree with that, only because I understand how narcissists think. Donald Trump is not without the capability of saying, if I'm going down, I'm taking everybody down with me. I mean, that's where it all ends up ultimately. I think at this point, Donald Trump, being a narcissist, has a problem admitting he's wrong. So now he's just trying to do anything to prove he's right. You know, whether it be the war or some of the other things going on, it's all a lame attempt to try to regain favor and popularity in this country. He understands he's losing popularity. All he has to do is hear about the polls. He may not understand it, but the people around him do. And he's just trying to do anything or everything to get back on top. What he doesn't understand is he's not going to be able to do that. That's never going to happen. He's not in a position to come back. He's in the spiral, and the spiral will end in a crash. There's no two ways about it. It's just a matter of when and how bad it's going to be. And will he take a lot of people and a lot of us down with him? Yeah. And that's why I've said, I've always said that once Donald Trump got elected, it's going to end up having to be a catastrophic crash before some of these dumb fucks, including members of Congress, realize this is a bad choice. So if that crash is imminent, if it's going to happen no matter what, I'd rather have it happen sooner than later, because the faster it happens, the faster we can start to get back and fixing the huge number of problems that we have. All right, the next one says, "Hi, Mike, Gen X Sooner here. Hope all is well with you and your family. Some interesting notes on the filing of the Senate seat left by the cosplay cowboy's departure for DHS. Governor Stitt has 30 days to fill the seat. The individual that fills the position has to be of the same party as the previous senator and sign an agreement not to run for the seat when it is up for election again. Mullen's seat is up for election this year. I think Governor Stitt will run for the empty seat as he has termed out this year. So expect Trumplefuck to again fill that spot on the interim. I'm not sure that Stitt can win the seat if he runs because he got sideways with Trump over the governor's conference situation. Sorry, such a long text. I'm usually working when you have your live shows. Thanks for all you do." Yeah, it's no problem. I complain about long texts sometimes, but don't listen to my shit. I told you to send text. You want to send a long text, you send a long text. I can whine about it. That doesn't mean you should stop doing it or have to stop doing it. You gave me some information I wasn't aware of. I was talking about Mullen, and why would you give up the Senate seat to take this shaky job as DHS secretary? And you're saying that his seat is up for election this year in 2026. Maybe he's feeling like he's not going to win. Maybe that's why he's taking this. Maybe he's trying to staunch the bleeding that is going to affect him so he won't lose his Senate job. They'll put somebody else in until November or January, actually. And I didn't know that they can't run for re-election once they've been in there. So whoever takes this job has to be a Republican, but they have to be just an interim person. They can't run for re-election again. And as they pointed out, Governor Stitt, who's a fucking dope. I don't know if you've ever heard this guy talk. He is a fucking goofball. He is a Trump-la-fuck, but apparently, like they said, he got sideways with Donald Trump, and he may not have his favor anymore. But what you're laying out there makes a lot of sense. He puts somebody in temporarily. Then when the Senate seat election comes up in November, he runs for that because he's terming out as governor. That makes a lot of sense. All right, the next one says, "Hi, Mike. I sent you an email that was so surprising to me. Let's just put it this way. I'm hoping that someone is investigating this. The GOP is killing two birds with one stone. I couldn't just send the link. I'm guessing it's on Facebook unshareable. There's receipts with the article." Oh, I'm sorry, I don't see the article. It's probably in the email. Again, don't send me links. Just tell me what you're talking about, and then I'll research it if I have to. Next one says, "Hey, Mike, trying to figure out why so many people in power of different political ideologies seem to be pushing the word into a possible forever war and often overlook the part of the novel 1984 came to mind. Right around the time we see the article after article about how AI and automation are taking at least half of our jobs very soon, at a time when major tech CEO says, after firing 4,000 people within the next year, I believe the majority of companies will reach the same conclusion and make similar structural changes. I remember the part in 1984 that led to the creation of the world those characters inhabited, a realization by the rich and powerful that once technology reached a certain point, that makes most human labor unnecessary. The world has to make a choice between utopia, realized where the oligarchy are no longer the special class at the top of the food chain and possibly the end of capitalism, or something much darker, forever wars that create a permanent caste system which the rich and powerful stay on top forever. Now he's given me a quote from 1984. It's, this one's a long one, but I'm going to read it because my show, I can do whatever the fuck I want. From the moment when the machine first made its appearance, it was clear to all thinking people that the need for human drudgery and therefore to great extent for human inequality had disappeared. If the machine were used to deliberately for that end, hunger, overwork, dirt, illiteracy, and disease could be eliminated within a few generations, and in fact without being used for any purpose but by a sort of automatic process by producing wealth, which it was sometimes impossible not to distribute, the machine did raise the living standards of the average human, being gratefully over a period of about 50 years at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th centuries. But it was also clear that an all-around increase in wealth threatened the destruction, indeed, in some senses, that the destruction of the hierarchical society. In a world in which everyone worked short hours, had enough to eat, lived in a house with a bathroom and a refrigerator, and possessed a motor car or even an airplane, the most obvious and perhaps most important form of inequality would already have disappeared. If it once became general, wealth would confer to no distinction. It was possible, no doubt, to imagine a society in which wealth, in the sense of personal possessions and luxuries, should be evenly distributed, while power remained in the hands of a small privileged caste. But in practice, such a society could not long remain stable, for if leisure and security were enjoyed by all alike, the great mass of human beings who are normally stupefied by poverty would become literate and would learn to think for themselves. And when once they had done this, they would sooner or later realize that the privileged minority had no function, and they would sweep it away in the long run. A hierarchical society was only possible on a basis of poverty and ignorance. Sorry for the essay. I realize this one may be too long to read over the podcast, but I thought you might find it provoking as well. Thanks for help keeping us sane, Billy. Well, thank you, Billy. I appreciate that immensely. And 1984 is an interesting book, and made a lot of predictions, that some of which we're seeing now. The problem with that particular passage is suggesting that we would have the machine that ran everything and everybody would do well and be out of poverty and have food. The problem is I don't think that's the intention of the oligarchs at this point. None of them are about sharing the wealth. They're about hoarding the wealth and not giving a damn what the poor people of this country might be doing. But that has a downside too. If all these big companies use AI and they don't need to hire anybody and they save all kinds of money, problem is you've got a bunch of people that can't afford to buy the shit you're selling. So now you have that problem. The whole thing is a little scary. I'm not quite as concerned about AI taking over everything and everybody being out of a job. It just doesn't make any sense. That's not a workable plan. That may be what some people are thinking, but like everything else with Republicans at this point, they have these brilliant ideas and they always fail miserably. Look at the economy right now. Look at what's going on with a war that we should not be in. Everything they do ends up failing. And I don't know how that's all going to shake out. AI is something we definitely need to address. I use AI for some things, nothing big, but I do find it intriguing, and I've been able to find a lot of information that I wouldn't otherwise be able to find. I would say this: do not be afraid of AI. Learn AI the best you can, because the people that understand AI and can work with AI will probably always have a job, in the sense that You need somebody to operate it. Now, I know everybody says it's getting smarter every day, and eventually it'll be able to do itself, or do everything for itself. I don't know that that's true. I'm not smart enough to tell you that that's true. But I will tell you this. When the internet first came around, people were freaking out. People are going to lose jobs. There's going to be this problem. There's going to be that problem. But if you understand what happened when the internet came, even though there was a lot of concern about it, we adapted, we adjusted. And I think that's what's going to happen with AI. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's not going to be a bad thing or not cause some problems, but I think we as a society will kind of adapt to it, and we'll be fine. I mean, think about this. When all of us rode on horse and buggies or single horses, and then the motor car came, everybody was freaking out. Oh, my God. All the people that had stables that stored these horses, the blacksmith that shoed these horses, they'll all be out of business, which was true. But we adjusted. We adjusted and found different things and different ways to do things. Americans aren't stupid. There's been a lot of things over the years that we've adjusted to. Radio to TV, nothing to the internet. We've adjusted to all these things, and I think we're not giving ourselves enough credit about adjusting to what AI will do. Everybody wants to paint doom and gloom on everything that they run across. And you can't really do that, because if you do that, you pretty much give up. And I don't know about you, but I'm not the kind of motherfucker that's going to give up no matter what. You could have your foot on my neck, and I'm not giving up. And it's not because I'm brave or tough or anything like that. It's because it's the only option. Giving up and giving in is not an option. Giving up and giving in is sure death, either metaphorically or literally. You got to keep pushing forward. You got to keep fighting. You got to keep a positive attitude. All right, the next one comes from Paul. Hi, Mike. Watching Pete Kegsbreath discussing the attack on Iran cannot clearly define the mission, objectives. Sounds like a 12-year-old talking about his staged G.I. Joe game, using terms like warfighters, fucking moron, lame, incompetent, and out of his league. Some folks can grow into and meet the task of the job. The only thing this clown can do is meet the flasks. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, that really is the big problem here. This fucking clown is way over his head, and we're seeing people in the military coming out and saying that. He's over his head. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He has the problem a lot of young men have. He has more testosterone than fucking brains, and he just has this need to be the tough guy. Oh, I'm going to be the tough guy. Well, the tough guy never fought in a war. He was in the National Guard, for fuck's sake. He reached major or something like that, but he was never a war fighter. He was a drunken frat boy for most of his fucking life. He had to pay a woman $50,000 to keep her mouth shut about his sexual assault on her. Now, to us, that's a bad thing. Apparently, to Donald Trump, if you assault women, that means you have a guaranteed spot in his cabinet. Kegsbreath is a problem because he doesn't know what he's doing. And the most serious part of that problem is he's running the Defense Department. And he's one of the reasons we're in a war that we shouldn't be in, that was unprovoked, and that we're fucking losing because there was no plan or strategy. I just want to make a comment. A lot of Trump-fucks will come to me, and when I talk negatively about this war with Iran, they immediately say to me, well, you support Iran? Iran is a terrorist country. No, I don't support Iran. And I know they're a terrorist country. And I know the regime was horrific. But you didn't change the regime. You killed the guy running the regime, and now they're putting his son in, who's fucking worse. The regime is the same, if not worse, than before you bombed it. If you're going to change the regime, fucking do it. But you didn't. You didn't calculate this properly because you thought, Donald Trump thought, we'll bomb the hell out of them, scare them, and then everybody in Iran will overrun the government and replace it themselves. This is how Donald Trump does business. He wants everybody else to do his work, do his job. And then when they don't, he's surprised. He had no idea. Then when Iran goes and bombs all the other countries around the Middle East and then closes off the Strait of Hormuz, he even said, we didn't expect that. Really, motherfucker? You didn't expect that? I'm an old guy sitting in my living room. I expected that. They've done it before. They can close the Strait of Hormuz and choke off oil to the rest of the world and cause all kinds of problems. They can bomb other Middle Eastern countries and bomb the U.S. military installments. You didn't think they would do that? Well, if you didn't think they'd do that, clearly you weren't smart enough or informed enough to get us in this fucking battle. And look where we are now. All right, next up, it says, hey, Mike, been listening a bit lately, but haven't been able to hop on Substack. Thinking about this whole report that there are storage lockers out there with Epstein's property and potential additional data. Given how entrenched Epstein was with the Russians, I wonder if he didn't just hand the keys over to them to empty them out before anyone in the U.S. DOJ got there. Could explain how this administration is clearly owned by the Russians. If they're in possession of the worst in terms of photos and videos, are threatening to release them in exchange for the U.S. to take a Putin-friendly world stance, makes you think, huh? It does make me think. I don't know about those storage units. I have a feeling they're still out there if they are. I do think Russia probably has some evidence. I think Israel has some evidence. And that's part and parcel to what's happening here. Except the problem is Donald Trump has a big problem. If Russia has evidence and he's trying to appeal to them, then he wouldn't be bombing Iran because Iran and Russia are in cahoots. I don't know what the plan is here. And the problem with Donald Trump or any other narcissist is they don't have close friends. And if they do have friends, they don't have them very long because eventually they become problematic and they throw them under the bus. Now, attacking Iran is not a positive thing for Russia, so Russia is a little pissed. What they're going to do about it, I don't know. But I would not be surprised if we see some leak of Epstein files situation because Donald Trump is pissing off China and Russia, which is not a good idea. In fact, Iran said, if you keep pushing this shit, we're going to ask Russia and China to help us out even more than they already are. See, this is the problem. Donald Trump doesn't think before he does things. He doesn't plan, he doesn't strategize, and he always fucks up. So when he fucks up, he expects somebody to bail him out, except this time there is nobody to bail him out. And there's where the problem lies. All right, the next one says, hi, Mike, Gina from Massachusetts. Please use your platform to tell people to watch Rick Steves on YouTube about democracy. Oh, my God, brilliant. Hope all is well. Now, I don't know who Rick Steves is, but I'll check it out. Appreciate the tip, and we'll check him out. There's a lot of people on the internet, whether it be TikTok or YouTube or Substack, that are very, very smart, certainly smarter than I am. I read a lot of them. I listen to a lot of them to get information. And I would recommend you looking at all the options out there. But I want to warn you, as much as you can't believe everything in mainstream media or in the streaming media, you can't believe most of what they're telling you. It's the same on the internet. There are people out here that aren't necessarily telling you the truth or the whole truth. They have a different agenda. They're looking for followers and making money. The truth or what they report is secondary to them making a buck. So be careful when you're out there who you listen to and what you listen to, because there's a lot of grifters out here on the internet. You got to be careful of them. Next one says, Jace isn't wrong about MTG being smarter than Handjob Bobert, but in my aquarium, my goldfish is smarter than my snail. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you completely that it's all relative. It's all relative as to who's smart and who's not smart. And there are very few Republicans that are smart. I've said that before, that We have an epidemic of stupid in this country. And as proof of that, 49% of this country voted for Donald Trump after they knew of his sexual assaults, his 34 convictions, his lying, his failures. They still voted for him. There's only two ways you can look at it. They are complicit and part of the conspiracy, or they're stupid. And as I've said before, I like to look at things positively. So I'm going to assume they are stupid. And there are many stupid people, not only in the electorate, but also in Congress. We see it every day. Wayne Mullen's a good example of that. All right, the last text is, hey, Mike, just a theory. With no one seeing Bibi Netanyahu in a while, maybe Taco knows this. With Bibi possibly gone of this whole, then he has nothing on dumbfuck Trump with the Epstein files, and this is why he's all jacked up, wanting to say that we won and wants to pull out of Iran. Thoughts? Denny from Iowa. Okay, I get what you're saying there. You're saying that if Bibi's dead, then Donald Trump feels safe that Bibi won't release whatever evidence he might have. So he can just pull out and say fuck it and not care what Israel does. And that's the one thing that I've said all along is Donald Trump is in this now, and it's hard for him to get out, because if he gets out, then Iran is just going to bomb the piss out of Israel even more. And there may not be an Israel when it's all said and done. But what you're suggesting is that if Bibi's dead, then he can pull out and let them do whatever they want to Israel. I don't think that's true. Here's why. If there is evidence, it's not just Bibi Netanyahu who has this evidence. It's whoever else will take over, or the rest of the government. The very future of Israel depends on Donald Trump and the Americans' help in this war. The idea that Bibi Netanyahu is the only one that has access to it, I'd be surprised by that. Could Bibi be using this leverage over Donald Trump? Yeah. Could Donald Trump think that now that Bibi's dead, if that's the case, that he's free and clear? Yeah, because he's a dumb fuck. But what he doesn't understand is, even if Bibi's dead, the rest of Israel, the rest of the government is concerned about the future of Israel, so they will use that material as well. And then, the other thing is if he pulls out, he's going to piss off AIPAC, he's going to piss off all the supporters of Israel. He's really caught in a tight spot. He really doesn't know what the fuck to do. And that is part of the problem when you go into something and you don't have a plan. Donald Trump honestly thought, because he's a lazy fucker, he thought he could go in, bomb them for a couple days, they'd give up, and he'd be the hero. Honestly, that's what he believes. Unfortunately, that's not how Iran plays. Iran has been planning on this kind of attack for decades, so they're ready. And they're playing, these people are playing it right into Iran's hands, like we talked about before. We've got them using their cheap drones to take out the expensive defense weapons that America and Israel has. And then once they deplete us of that, then they're going to start hitting Israel and other places around the Middle East with these heavy-duty hypersonic bombs with 1-ton payloads. Donald Trump walked into this thinking that he's the biggest, strongest animal in the woods, that nobody could beat him and no one would dare push him. He was misinformed about Iran. This is exactly the kind of thing that Iran would do in this situation, and this is what they're doing. And this is why Donald Trump is fucking caught. He's fucking caught, and he doesn't know what to do. I'm sure he's freaking out in the White House right now. He's seeing the oil prices go up. He's seeing the bad press about the war, and now he wants to walk away from it. We've seen him do this before. With the tariffs, he puts the tariffs on, then the stock market goes down, and then he says, I'll take the tariffs off. He always waffles. He jumps in, he backs out, he jumps in, he backs out. And that's one thing if you're talking about tariffs in the stock market. We're talking about a war in the fucking Middle East. A war in the Middle East where it's most volatile at this point. You don't walk in there and start shit and say, okay, I'm leaving. You can't do that without looking really, really bad. And you know how Donald Trump doesn't like to look bad. So he's in a tough position, and the people around him know he's in a tough position. Why they allowed him to do this, I don't know. But this is going to be potentially the death knell for Donald Trump, because this will be something he can't be bailed out from. This is something he can't fix or spin or divert. This is all on Donald Trump. He wanted all the credit when he went in there. And then when it goes bad, he's going to try to pass it off on somebody else. But that's going to be virtually impossible for him to do. All right, those are the texts. And now if you have a question, comment, or whatever, and you want to send me a text, you can do that. Just send it to 952-522-1399. 952-522-1399. Questions, comments, what have you. I'll do a show like this. We'll talk about the questions and comments, and I'll give you the best answers I can. Or I'll look to somebody else who knows more than I do and get an answer from them and then give it to you. One way or another, we'll find out some of the answers, or at least the responses to the questions you have. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.